we've got this great article here. It's called
Mm-hmm.
Pinterest for Artists, How to Promote Art on Pinterest. And it's from marketyourart.net.
Okay.
Really good stuff in there.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about Pinterest as like the world's biggest art gallery?
It is kind of. I mean, that's a really interesting way to look at it. And in a way, it's true because
Yeah.
every single pin is a chance to showcase to a huge audience.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess before we get too far ahead of ourselves, for
Yeah.
anyone who maybe is new to Pinterest, can you explain just like the basics of what it is and how it works?
Sure. So imagine like a giant virtual mood board,
Okay.
right? So instead of like clipping magazine cutouts, people are pinning images and ideas that they love
Mm-hmm.
onto these themed boards. So you might have a board for abstract art ideas or DIY pottery techniques or whatever you're into.
I love that.
And the big thing, and this is key for artists, is that unlike other social media where your posts kind of get buried in a feed,
Right.
your art on Pinterest, it kind of stays visible much longer. You know what I mean?
So it's less about just posting in the moment and more about like having something that's lasting, which I can see. For artists especially,
Absolutely.
that's huge, especially if people are actively searching for inspiration like that.
Totally. And that's a good point because Pinterest is as much a search engine as
Mhm.
it is a social platform.
Okay.
People go to Pinterest to look for very specific things.
Yeah.
And just like on Google, using the right keywords is key.
Makes sense.
So let's say you're a ceramic sculptor using terms like, ceramic sculpture, handmade pottery, things like that.
Yeah.
That's going to help your work pop up when someone searches for those terms.
So it's not just about pretty pictures, it's also about being strategic and thinking like the audience a little bit too.
Exactly.
Now, the article mentions that there are some advantages to using Pinterest over other platforms, especially for artists.
Mm-hmm.
Can you walk us through some of those?
Yeah. So one of the biggest ones, and we touched on it a little bit, is the lifespan of the content. A pin can circulate for months, even years.
Wow.
After you first pin it, if it resonates with people, they'll keep repinning it. So it's not like other platforms where you have to keep creating new content every day.
Yeah, you can build a library of content that will keep working for you.
Exactly.
That's great for artists.
Totally, because you can focus on creating rather than just posting and posting and posting.
Yeah, nobody's got time for that.
Exactly.
The article also mentions that Pinterest users are more likely to take action when they're on Pinterest.
Yeah.
So they're not just there to browse, they're looking for ideas they can actually use. So what does that mean for artists?
Well, think of it this way. Someone scrolling through their Instagram feed, they might just like a picture and keep going. But someone on Pinterest is often looking for a very specific thing.
Like a piece of art?
Yeah, like a certain type of art, a tutorial, maybe even a product to buy.
Okay.
So when they find your pin, they're already primed to engage with it.
It's awesome.
Right. And they might click through to your website, see if you have a shop, maybe even commission a piece.
Okay, so we're talking about a platform where people are actively looking for art and inspiration.
Yes.
And on top of that, your content has a longer shelf life.
Yeah, it's pretty good so far. And we haven't even gotten to group boards yet, which is a whole other thing.
All right, so we've talked about some good things, but I think we should also mention some of the downsides because every platform has downsides.
For sure, yeah.
Let's be real, nothing's perfect, so let's dive into some of those next.
Well, the article actually mentions one right off the bat. It does take work.
Okay.
It's not just like pin a few things and you're done,
It's not a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Right, exactly. You've got to be consistent. Like
Yeah.
with anything else online, if you're not showing up, people won't see you.
Right.
So that means pinning regularly, engaging with people, keeping up with trends.
Yeah.
It's a time commitment, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially if you're already busy creating.
Totally. Time is precious.
Exactly.
The article also talks about like making sure you're using high quality images that are like optimized for Pinterest.
Yeah.
What about artists who maybe aren't like the best with technology or photography or design?
That's a really good point.
Like, is that going to hold them back?
It's true. I mean, you want to have really good visuals because at the end of the day, Pinterest is a visual platform.
Right.
And the article talks about this too. Like, you really want to use vertical images.
Okay.
They just tend to stand out more.
Mm-hmm.
Think about good lighting.
Yeah.
Make sure your photos are nice and clear. But you don't have to be a professional photographer to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
There are tools out there.
Right.
There are resources. You could even think about collaborating with a photographer if you really want to.
Yeah. Team up, play to your strengths.
Exactly.
Okay. But thinking about all this, like the time, the visuals, does it make you wonder, like, is Pinterest really worth it for artists?
It's a good question.
especially when there's so many other platforms that are also kind of competing for your attention, you know?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And that's something that the article also brings up.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, it really depends on you as an artist and what you're hoping to get out of it.
Okay, so there's not like a yes or no answer.
Not really.
It depends.
It does, but I think we can look at it strategically.
Right.
You know, if you're an artist and your work is really visually appealing,
Okay.
if you enjoy the curating aspect,
Right.
if you like the idea of engaging with the community online, if you think you have it in you to put in the time and learn the platform and be consistent,
Right.
it can be super powerful.
So it's really about finding the platform that aligns with you and your art and your goals and everything.
100%.
Okay, cool.
And, you know, even if you decide Pinterest isn't going to be your main thing,
Yeah.
it can still be part of your strategy. It's like a piece of the puzzle.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the maybe not so fun parts of Pinterest.
Downsides.
Yeah. But you also mentioned earlier that there were some really good things about it, especially when it comes to group boards.
Yeah.
So let's unpack that. What is so special about a group board?
So group boards, that's
Yeah.
where like all the magic happens on Pinterest.
Okay.
It's all about like the networking and stuff.
Yeah.
So think of them as collaborative boards
Okay.
where it's not just you pinning to your own board. It's like
Right.
a bunch of different people
Mhm.
who are all interested in the same things and they can all contribute to the board.
So it's kind of like a curated art exhibition, but
Yep.
it's online?
Exactly.
Okay.
Like let's say you're a watercolor artist
Mhm.
and you love to paint landscapes.
Okay.
You could join these group boards
Yeah.
and there are tons of them dedicated to things like, you know, watercolor inspiration
Right,
or
yeah.
landscape painting.
Yeah.
You could even get super specific like watercolor landscapes of the Pacific Northwest if you wanted to.
I love it. Yeah.
Right.
And that way you're getting in front of people who are already like interested in that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like instead of just hoping people find your work,
Right.
you're putting it directly in front of them.
That makes sense.
Right. So it's like you're at a gallery,
Okay.
but the gallery is curated for people who already love this thing.
Right. Like they already walked in the door.
Exactly.
Then they're there.
They're there, so that's huge.
That's awesome.
But then it gets even better.
Okay, how?
Because when you're on these group boards
Yeah.
and you're pinning other people's work and you're leaving comments, you're engaging with the community.
You're being a good art friend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're building relationships with other artists. You know,
Right.
you might even get people following you back to your own profile because they found you through that group board.
It's like, yeah, it's like networking,
Totally.
but it's more visual.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is perfect for artists.
And the article, Pinterest for Artists, how to promote art on Pinterest, like they talk about that a lot, how important that community aspect is.
Yeah, because I think, especially as an artist, it can be really lonely.
Right. You're in the studio a lot.
Yeah, exactly. You're by yourself a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So just having that sense of community, even if it's online,
Yeah. I feel like that's got to be so important for artists.
it's huge. I mean, that's one of the things that Pinterest really offers is this space where you can connect with other artists.
So it's not just about like getting sales.
Exactly. It's not just about the business side of things.
Yeah.
It's about the community.
Okay, cool.
Finding inspiration, maybe even collaborating on a project down the line.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Okay, so I feel like to sum it all up,
Yeah.
we're talking about a platform where your content like lasts longer
Mm-hmm.
than on other platforms. We're talking about people who are actively looking for art and inspiration.
Yes.
And then we have this whole other aspect of community building with the group boards.
Love it.
So it's not just like a get-rich-quick scheme or whatever.
There's no magic button.
Right, but it sounds like it could be really valuable if you put in the effort.
100%. And I think, you know, this article that we keep mentioning, Pinterest for Artists, how to promote art on Pinterest.
Yeah.
Really good stuff in there.
It's a great starting point, yeah.
It really is. So
If you are ready to maybe dive a little bit deeper into the world of Pinterest, see how it can work for you, check out the link to the full article.
it's in the episode description.
It is in the description for this episode. And hey, while you're at it, check out marketyourart.net.
So many good things on there.
There are so many good resources. You can really learn a lot. So with that, happy pinning, everybody.
Happy pinning.